Talk about the preventative side. You were referring to that because
Yeah.
I think that people think, well, we all have to go live in a third world country, but there's a lot of things we can do on the preventative side.
There are so many things, It's the story of the bodies floating in the water, and you see it, and you go and pull it out, and pretty soon you see more coming down, and you're just, you're rescuing people out of it. And then someone asks the question, what's going on upstream?
Yeah.
I mean, what's happening? And then somebody goes up there and they go, oh, this is happening. Hey, if we dealt with this, we're going to see fewer of this.
Right.
And that's just so true. And so many churches are actually already doing some great ministries, but they don't understand and make the connection. They don't see the thread of how what they're doing is really impacting the overall picture of global poverty or extreme poverty in the community they live in or around the world. And so little things like adoption or sponsoring kids or working with single moms or drilling water wells.
Right, safe water.
I mean, doing safe water and giving them access to disease prevention, sustainable agriculture. I mean, there's so many things that you're involved in. You think, wow, that's important to feed the hungry, to provide shelter, to give clothing. And all of these things are steps that when they happen, they keep people from ultimately ending up in a place where they are hopeless.
Yeah, and I think the movie motivates people to be more involved on the preventative side with the safe water, with sponsorship, all of those things. Talk about, though, you were really passionate about local and global. Isaiah 58 is not just a global mandate, but it really starts as churches in our own backyard. Talk about that.
I heard a friend use the term many years ago, Glocal, to describe this relationship between global and local. And she said, we think locally and we act globally. That at the church level, we look in our neighborhoods and we see the poor is beginning, as a person, body, mind, and soul. I mean, there are people impoverished in their souls, impoverished in their marriages, impoverished in their finances, and they may have money, but they're impoverished. I mean, it's an amazing thing. When you look around, you see people suffering and who are in poverty. And if you can't see what's outside your front door, it's really hard for you to have integrity in what you do overseas. Right. You're caring about the people that are overseas, but yet your neighbor, you don't even see the poverty that they're in. And so it works together. And the truth is that many people in our community have a heart to serve locally. And that kind of plants seeds for them to then go globally and make a difference.
Yeah, in fact, it's easier to it's easier sometimes to give to something globally because you don't have to get your hands dirty. But when you have to serve locally, in fact, I think that's really the true blessing of a church is you have to start locally because that's where credibility and blessing and faith is grown, and then we go out and we go global. I think the American church has been good at global, but maybe ignoring our own neighbors. Yeah,
that's huge. I think what you said, credibility, is big because when you look at the walls in your city that have been torn down, when you look at places of injustice, you become, as in Isaiah 58, when you pay attention to those, you're known as the rebuilder of the walls. I mean, you care about your community, and I love the saying, when the water rises, all the boats float. When everyone cares about the community, when everyone is working together and collaborating, there's this huge blessing. It's the saving grace and it's the common grace. It's caring about the way that people live in your city, and you care about the city, and you pray for the blessing of the city. And because when the city prospers, we all prosper. Yeah. And there's this beautiful picture of the city walls and this transformation that happens when you care what's happening locally, and you get your hands dirty, and you get involved, and it is messy. Yeah. And you bring churches together to accomplish it. And then you have a vision of casting of what if we could do this in other places where there's people are really hurting and in need, and I think that's powerful to do that.
I think that's where, again, this amazing movie, the gift of this movie, 58, is just has such a huge impact. How did it impact your congregation?
Well, I think one of the first things that it did was it really inspired our congregation to recognize that we have so much and we do so little.
Yeah.
And then we said, wow, we've got all of this, and we could do just a little bit that could make a huge difference in the life of a child, of a family living in poverty, in extreme poverty. And it's an amazing thing. And so immediately it put it on the mental radar of our people and the spiritual radar of our people. So it becomes part of our DNA, some of the stuff we're talking about all the time. And so more and more people are involved in small ways and in big ways of making a difference for people who are living in poverty.
Well, I love this movie because it's not about guilt, it's about opportunity. It's really about rebuilding those walls. There's a really optimistic, even though poverty is extreme and there's some difficult moments in the movie, I think it's, again, you don't end with guilt, I have to do this. It's, we get to do this.